What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ballin' with the Boys podcast. I'm Chris, and alongside of me is my boy Justin. And today we're going to talk about the history of the XFL. And the first note I got for you guys is that the XFL was founded by Vince McMahon in 1999. Him and NBC split partnerships.
Originally, the XFL started out with 8 teams, and they owned all of these teams rather than following NFL's model where they had franchises for each team as well as a separate owner for each team in the league. And the first 8 teams that the XFL ever started out with was the Birmingham Thunderbolts, the Chicago Enforcers, the New Jersey Hitmen, Orlando Rage, Las Vegas Outlaws, Los Angeles Extremes, San Francisco Demons, and the Memphis Maniacs. Those are some names.
Maniacs with an X. But no, for these teams, though, they also promoted to have fewer rules and rougher play to cause chaos and gain more representation.
Yeah, McMahon thought that rougher play would kind of help gain attraction quicker with the startup of the XFL. And he thought that a lot of the fans complaining about how the NFL was played would enjoy the rougher play of the XFL. And one of the main rules that he created for this was actually the bump and run rule. So defensive backs could hit receivers anytime until the quarterback released the ball. And that lasted about 4 weeks. And then they was like, no, cut it, shut it down, can't do it. Then I believe after that they moved it to where you could only touch the receivers for 5 yards, just like the NFL. But they had a good run for 4 weeks at it.
And another thing they did to gain attraction, and was pretty smart too, was they started the XFL after the NFL and college football seasons. And speaking about seasons, though, the very first season opened up on February 3rd in 2000. But eventually viewership started to nosedive, and they just couldn't keep up the views and all that.
NBC pulled out, and the league ceased to exist, so that ended up being XFL's first and last season.
Yeah, and it was said that they used staged events by using WWF.
They also, speaking of WWF, used WWF sportscasters, Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross, Jesse Ventura. They opened the games even kind of WWF style by doing what they called a human coin toss.
Yeah, and the human coin toss, where officials would place the ball down, pick 2 players from each team, and let them run and scramble for the ball.
And they had to run, I think, about 20 yards before trying to gain possession of it, and it was kind of just like a bear crawl fight from there, pretty much.
Right, and during the XFL season, they only had 10 games.
During the games, they used a black Spalding football instead of the regular Wilson one that NFL uses.
Right. And then another fact is they only had 1 playoff game, and they had a championship game, but it is now called the $1 Million Game.
Yeah, they originally called that the big game at the end of the season, but they didn't think that was catchy enough. It was maybe a little too generic, so they ended up changing it to the $1 Million Game because at the end of the game, the winning team split $1 million between all of the players.
Yeah, and that year, the championship game was the Los Angeles Extremes, which was 38-6 against the San Francisco Demons.
Yep, the Los Angeles Extremes ended up winning that game. The MVP of the game was actually a place kicker, which is crazy because that would never happen in a championship game in the NFL, you would think. But this place kicker was Jose Cortez, who happened to be the first Salvadoran in the NFL. He played on 10 NFL teams.
And one of those NFL teams was the Colts, though.
Yep, he played on the Colts back in 2006.
And while we're talking about the Colts, we're going to get into our next segment, which we're going to bring in our guest, the number 1 Colts fan that we know. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Ballin' with the Boys podcast. And today we have a special guest, our 2022 Fantasy Championship winner. And, let's talk about your record, man. I'm going to just start off saying, you did start off great going 5-0.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the season, you was 9-5, the number 5 seed, but that was only because you was tied for second place with the same record as a few other people in our league. How was you feeling towards the end, going into the playoffs, as far as whether you was gonna make that or not?
Okay, well, I actually really started doubting it because last year the same exact thing happened, and I just went straight down the drain. Didn't have a chance or anything to make it. And I was thinking, oh, great, here I go. I lose Jonathan Taylor. I lose Lamar Jackson, and I'm like, what the heck, again? So I just started fishing around for free agents out there. And luckily, I was able to get Daniel Jones, who really helped out a lot. The running backs I had to pick up, unfortunately, they were just good enough to give me enough points to help me get those last few wins I needed to get into there.
What players would you say was your saving grace for the most part towards the end of the season after Lamar Jackson and Jonathan Taylor went down?
There's 3 players that were my saving grace, and that was Mike Evans, Travis Kelce, and Daniel Jones. If I didn't have those 3 players, I would have never had a shot at all.
Big shout out to those guys.
Right.
You won
Definitely.
a league championship.
Going back to your 5-0 start though, it was really because Lamar Jackson was putting up 50 points for you. Dude, that was crazy. I've probably never seen a quarterback do that.
Let me tell you, when I started seeing him do that, and I thought starting out 5-0, and I was like, okay, this is the roster this year. I got this. This is, I'm going to the championship this year. And as soon as I started feeling that way, here it comes again, injury after injury, and I'm thinking, man, I was like, it's it. I'm just getting rid of my whole team next year. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad I went ahead and just started fishing around for some free agents, and
definitely played the waiver wire a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, we already pretty much kind of went over the roster that you had throughout the season and the moves that you made to make it to the playoffs, and so we're just gonna go over the last 3 games that you had following all the way up to the championship, including the championship game. Where you beat our boy out here.
Yeah. It wasn't the best game for me.
Now the first couple rounds they were barely won. I mean, you had 10-point leads on them by the end of the weeks, and so during those first 2 weeks, I guess, how was you feeling knowing that if you lost that game, it was over from there?
Well, actually, going into the game before Chris and I was playing you, and I thought I was done at that point. I was like, there's no way I'm going to come back. I'm going to beat Justin. And then, like you said, that close finish, and I was like, holy cow. And then I was like, oh, great. Now I got Christopher to play. I was like, and they definitely had better rosters than I had. So
no kidding,
I
dude.
honestly did not think I was going to beat either one of them. So I'm just glad Daniel Jones and Mike Evans really showed up in those games for me.
Yeah, I mean, as far as house brand names goes towards the end of the season, as far as who we had compared to who you was scraping by with on your team, it was almost a miracle that you was able to go ahead and just skim past all of us.
Like, I'm not going to lie, dude. I went into that championship game like, dude, I got this.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, Mike Evans is just touchdown. I'm like, dude, well, I can't keep up with this.
I'm trying to remember. Didn't he score like 60 points in that championship game or
64,
something?
64
like
points.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't keep up with this. Nobody else was scoring points for me. And then let alone, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
He went off. And I was just like, dude, how do you keep up with a team like this now, thinking that you're winning, but you're not now? So
and that last week, really, I think you probably after the Mike Evans game started, you started to kind of.
I started like, oh, wait a minute, okay, here we go.
I got this. And I texted him and I was like, good game. He's like, it's not over yet, and I'm like, good game.
And you ended up finishing that game 157 to 106.
Yes. And do you know what's even crazier about that? I still had 2 players that didn't even play because of the Buffalo-Cincinnati game.
Oh, wow,
yeah. So, see, it's like...
We're not going to talk about that.
But overall, good game again. Great season, man. Of course, you're going to want that two-peat next year.
Yes, absolutely.
But on top of you winning, congratulations. Here's your championship ring.
Right.
Go ahead and show it to everybody.
All right, check that out.
Show them what it looks like on the finger. Oh, party foul. It's okay, guys.
There it is. Bling, bling.
So go ahead and wear it.
Thank you.
Good season.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So now let's get into some questions we got for you, though.
Okay.
What's the main position you're looking to improve on for your fantasy team next season?
Okay. Well, first I got to find out what Lamar Jackson's doing. So that's going to be a big key on where I go. I know Daniel Jones came in at the end of the year, started having a really good year for me, but still not really sold on Daniel Jones yet. So
the latest thing I have personally seen about Lamar Jackson, though, is he denied a $133 million contract.
I think what they're going to do is put a franchise tag on him, and I don't think he's going to play. I think he's honestly going to sit out.
There's a lot of that happening.
Yeah, I have recently heard that they're talking about franchise tagging him, and if they don't come to an agreement, I don't see them using that franchise tag on anybody else on their team other than Lamar Jackson.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, there's still concerns about his health and stuff like that going around with how he ended up towards the end of the season all banged up.
Right, and that's another reason I have been thinking about maybe just going ahead and getting rid of Lamar, because for the last 3 years, he's got hurt and he's been out a few weeks here and there, and he's just not been very reliable lately.
It almost seems like Baltimore's got a funny way of getting those kind of quarterbacks that can't really stay healthy long term. I mean, before him, they had RG3.
Yeah.
He's a broadcaster now.
Yep. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. When you said RG3, it's what it reminds me of, dude. When you got a running quarterback like that, and I mean, they're just prone to get injured. They're going to run the ball too much, and then they're just going to get hurt, just like RG3 did.
Yeah, and they have a lot more chance of getting hurt because of that. And we've seen this from multiple scrambling running backs all the time. I mean, of course, you got Jalen Hurts out there who still, runs tremendously, but you see he got hurt. And I know it was his shoulder, but still, you're scrambling the ball like that. Patrick Mahomes, his injury was more of trying to get ready to escape, tackled in the line.
Most definitely.
But as far as my roster goes, again, the other area I think I look for is running back, because the only solid running back I have on my roster is Jonathan Taylor, my boy, JT. Now, I'm really hoping the Colts are not going to try to look to trade him. There have been rumors on that. So they did do that with Marshall Faulk, and then followed up with getting Edgerrin James. So, I mean, that was not a bad move at all. But you also had Peyton Manning in there, so
yeah. Peyton Manning definitely did wonders. We probably got a couple other, I think, trade suggestion rumors that came up. We're gonna get to those in a little bit.
Okay. But speaking about as you being a Colts fan and everything, the next question we got is, what are you hoping the Colts do in the draft?
They have to go for a young quarterback, no matter if they somehow get Aaron Rodgers. I pray they don't get Derek Carr. But if they look out and they decide that they want to grab a veteran free agent quarterback, there's not a lot out there for them to choose that I would like for them to get anyway. I think Chris Ballard is at the point where he knows, if I don't take a young quarterback in this draft, I'm going to be out of a job sooner than later. Which in my mind, he probably should already be out. He's had 6 years to do this. And since Phillip Rivers, we haven't went nowhere.
Yeah, totally agree with you about the whole young quarterback thing. After the past few veterans we had, they should have definitely learned their lesson after Wentz. I mean, people had high hopes for Matt Ryan to do it, but just after Wentz, we should have went ahead and went after somebody younger. Should have traded somebody. So, but I totally agree about in the draft if you need a young quarterback, and if not, Ballard, you're probably out of your job, bud.
I definitely can agree with that. I mean, you said maybe if we can miraculously get Aaron Rodgers, but honestly, I don't even know if I'd want Aaron Rodgers to come here. I think we've had so many recycled, older, experienced quarterbacks that we need to stop going that route. We need to try something entirely different because it has not been working for us the past few years.
I mean, I totally agree, and I would rather them not. I don't want another veteran quarterback here. I was just saying if that was the route they went, he would be the only one I would probably be okay with them getting.
Most definitely. I mean, he has experience, but it's still, even though you have experience, it's time to probably hang it up once you come here. We don't want to look like we're the retirement home.
Right.
We shouldn't look like that team.
This is where the quarterbacks go when they don't have nowhere else to go. Yeah, we definitely don't want that.
So another question is about your fantasy league. Do you have your top 6 keepers yet in your head, or?
Kind of. Not 100% on him yet.
Gotcha.
So, I'm still going to shuffle around a little bit. I know I'm keeping Taylor. I know I'm keeping Kelsey, Mike Evans, Jalen Waddell. Those are probably the 4 I know for sure.
Gotcha.
Right now that I'm going to keep.
I know you said that one of your for sure keepers was JT, so that kind of leads us into the next question. Do you think JT comes back next season to be the JT we expected him to be this season, or?
I do think so, only because I think they shut him down early enough where he could have that surgery on his ankle, give him plenty of time to recover, then I think he'll be just fine next year.
I like that answer.
Speaking about JT though, where do you think the O-line needs help at to help JT get those yards again?
Well, I think they definitely need a left tackle. Now, I don't want to say the rookie, didn't do a great job because he is a rookie.
Right.
So give him a year under his belt. We'll see. But if they could get a couple good veteran left, like a left tackle veteran, right tackle, get some veterans in there,
right,
and really pop up that line, I think they'll be okay. I'm not sure if they're still going to try to trade Big Q or if they're going to try to keep him, see what they can do there.
I feel like that'd be risky.
So it will be. It would be very risky. But we've seen what's happened the last few years, what Ballard's been doing.
Yeah.
So I think they need to keep Big Q and try to get a couple of veteran big guys up front to be able to blow open some holes for Taylor. He doesn't need a big hole. We've seen that in the past.
He just needs to make one
Give
move.
him a
and
little
he's
crease,
good.
and he can be gone.
He is most definite. If he can get that O-line started, he's a most definite 5-yard plus running back.
Absolutely.
So we've been kind of staying more on the offense side of the ball as far as trade talks go and stuff like that. But what about with Leonard being out almost all season and our defense kind of still? I mean, they was still a productive defense. We had some bad games where we kind of got out of it, or for the most part though, we stayed in it. Do you think that Shaq Leonard would be good trade capital or no?
I'm glad you brought that question up because I was actually going to say I do think they are going to trade Shaq Leonard. I'll actually be surprised if they don't, because Franklin really stepped his game up to another level this year.
Most definitely.
The only difference I would say that Shaq Leonard put in there, we did have more takeaways with him in there.
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'll give that. But even though he feels a lot better now since he's had that surgery again, I still worry that one hit the wrong way will make that injury re-aggravated again. So I think he would be good trade bait. Maybe trade him to the Bears, who need defense, and their first round pick, since they got number 1, to make sure they get the player they want at that first spot.
I like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So you basically answered my next question. which was if you was a Colts GM, what would you trade for the number 1 draft pick overall?
Yeah.
So that answered that question. And I totally agree about trading Shaq Leonard, letting Zaire take the number 1 spot for linebacker. He did step up. He showed. He led tackles, I believe.
Yes, he did.
So my next question then is going to be, are you going to be making any trades this offseason, or are you just going to wait till the draft in the fantasy league?
I like to wait till the draft. That's just the way I like to play it. I don't know why. I guess I kind of want to see who everybody has right at this point.
Right.
Right at the draft point before I decide to go ahead and make my moves.
Smart.
Yeah, I'll probably just wait till the draft.
Even though you have the last pick?
Even though I have the last
in
pick.
The first round?
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy has 3 first picks. So
I'm ready for that one.
He wants his revenge.
He's trying to find somebody to replace Cooper Kupp with.
So,
No.
yeah, I know that was a big Achilles heel on you.
Yeah, that definitely dappered my season down quite a bit, especially when that happened in the midst of my Jamar Chase injury too.
Yes.
Because I had both of them out at one point. I mean, for a solid 2-3 weeks, I believe. But that ended me. As far as the actual football league goes, the last question we got for you: what team in the league would you say is one star player away from being that almost unbeatable road to the Super Bowl champions, almost guaranteed to make it next year if they fill what they was needing?
That's a good question. There's actually quite a few teams out there.
I was gonna say, if you can think of one maybe that didn't even make the playoffs this season.
I would say, as much as I want to, go with my boys, the Colts. I mean, I think we're a couple players away from getting there. I mean, and they can do it this offseason if they do the right things. They could get the players they need to make that push. But I would say, man, that's a tough one. The ones that did not make the playoffs this year, right?
Not necessarily, but if you could think of one that comes to your mind, yeah. We'll say if not, we can go with one that didn't make it to the playoffs.
Man, that's tough because I'm trying to think, all these teams floating in my head right now.
I was gonna say, because some teams, I feel like they really aren't even necessarily missing a star piece. They have what it takes already to be that team. They just need to make it. There's other teams I feel that are a couple key players away, and then there's maybe a few.
I actually think the Raiders, if they get the right quarterback in there, because they've got really good offensive weapons. Their defense is skeptical a little bit,
but they do have Max Crosby, and he is a dog.
Yes, and if they can put up enough points most of the time, they could beat most teams. Unfortunately, with Derek Carr, the reason I don't want him is because he's a turnover machine. He's very a lot of times when he gets pressured, he doesn't make the right judgment call where he needs to throw the ball. And that's my biggest thing on him. I mean, I think he's a good player, but he's not that player that's going to get that team over the
under
hump.
Pressure player.
Right. And you can see that every time they start to, every time he starts to get pressured, he'll try to hurry up and make a throw somewhere. And I would say the teams that didn't make the playoffs, I think the Raiders could be one of those teams.
I would say the Lions.
The Lions most definitely. Okay, thank you for saying that, because
the Lions, they made it pretty far this season. Especially in past seasons.
But if you're talking one player, I'm not sure, because the Lions need defense.
Yes.
Lions put up gobs of points. The problem was they couldn't stop other teams from putting up more points than them. So I do think the Lions can be there if they make the right adjustments on defense.
Yeah, I would say that the Raiders is probably definitely a good one to say. The Lions may be a little bit farther of a stretch just because they need a couple, I would say, key defensive players to make
Most
up for
definitely.
that lack that they had.
Um,
But I got to throw my boys' team out there, the New York Jets. I mean, I think you give them an actual solid quarterback that knows what they're doing out there, and they can play
Yeah.
a whole season throughout it, and they know who that quarterback starter is.
Right.
They got wonders of talent on that team. Their defense was doing absolutely amazing the entire season. Their offense, it was looking shaky off and on with their wide receivers and stuff.
Well, I
but as
mean,
long as they
their
can
offense
actually
was
keep
doing
that in
great with
check,
their rookie running back until he went down. Then that's where it started being more shaky.
yeah, I
And
mean,
then
Brees
Zach-
Hall came in, he was doing his thing, then he went out, and they had Ty Johnson and then
Michael Carter, and then they
Right.
Michael Carter
got
and
James
Zonovan Knight.
and then they got James
James
Robinson.
Robinson from the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing about the Jets. Okay, and they've always been known for this. They'll get the pieces in, they'll end up getting the right pieces, and then something will happen. Whether it's injuries, whether it's like, I agree. If they can get a right quarterback, I think they can have a chance to win that division. But you got to remember, they're in the same division with Buffalo, Miami, which Buffalo made the playoffs. Miami was right there. That's another team that you could talk about if they.
I would say
They
Miami
need a
almost the
quarterback.
same situation
Yeah.
if they have that star quarterback because
you
with
got
Tyreek
decent-
Hill and Waddle, that's
Right. You
almost
got
Yeah, that's
guaranteed.
unstoppable
And the thing
force.
about Miami is they got a decent, not as good as the Jets defense, okay, but they do have a good defense,
Mhm.
you know, and if they have a defense that you can play with the lead. So if
Yeah.
they could get another quarterback, because, I'm sorry, nothing against Tua, but, thoughts and prayers with him, he needs to stop. He's had way
Yeah,
too
I
many
think he just
concussions.
needs to.
I mean, he really needs to retire with all the concussions he's had.
Yeah, I think it's time to hang it up for him. I mean, yeah, as a young quarterback, it's sad to see, but after 3 concussions in one season, I think it's time to hang it up.
I mean, your life's not worth it. It's not, putting your life in jeopardy like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot that he went through in just this one little season. I think that'd probably be enough for me to step away. But
And again, next year, the AFC is going to be packed with, so much, playoff runs from so many teams. You're going to have to really win big next year.
yeah, you're gonna have
The
to fight for everyone.
NFC is still, to me, the NFC is still not caught up right now with the AFC. And it used to be backwards. It used to be the totally opposite way.
Right.
So,
Since we're talking about the AFC and NFC, we didn't really have this question for you, but it popped up in my head. How do you feel about the Pro Bowl switching up this year?
I actually think it's going to be good for fans because now they're not. I used to love watching Pro Bowl growing up. And as the years and years went on, it got more flaky and flaky. And I understand you don't want to get injured playing a Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You're you're not playing for anything really. Too much of nothing. I mean, yeah, all the players get paid a little bit of money to play in it and whatnot, but it's not worth risking an injury where you can't play your season next year and now you're losing out on money on your contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So I think the skills challenge and the flag football game, I think is way better, and I think it's going to be a lot more competitive because I think they're going to actually try to play harder. You're just not going to see the tackling, and stuff like that. So
Totally agree with you about the safety and everything. And yeah, I
So-
mean, as much as I miss the, hitting and everything, it is different. Something just got to adjust to.
right.
So, but I totally agree about, being safe for next season.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. I plan on trying to watch it later today, so we'll see,
Gotcha.
how it turns out. But I think it'll be actually pretty exciting for the fans.
Well, since we talked about the Pro Bowl, let's talk about the biggest bowl coming up next week.
It would have been the biggest bowl.
Sorry.
Yeah, man. Let's start our Super Bowl predictions. Honestly, after that Bengals and Chiefs game, I'm really hoping the Eagles beat the Chiefs because that game was totally out of whack.
Uh, well, there was a few things that happened in that game, and I understand Bengals fans upset because of the referees on the dead ball call and all that. But you guys have to admit, Burrow had 2 chances to go down after that and score, and then the linebacker from Cincinnati, just young guy, made bonehead play, and it was accidental. I was actually rooting for the Bengals to win myself, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, me and all my money was rooting for the Bengals to win too. At the end of the day, obviously, yeah, I'm a Bengals fan. I was definitely mad about the how that game went. I seen some iffy calls in that fourth quarter that was missed, but Joe Mixon didn't perform very well that game. Joe Burrow didn't do what we needed him to do when he had the ball in his hands. Our O-line looked absolutely ferocious. It was just a bad game all around for the Bengals. So whether we necessarily deserved to win that game, no. But did the Chiefs deserve to win that game? No. So I'm a root for the Eagles in the Super Bowl in case you guys wasn't following.
Yeah, I got what you're about. As far as a prediction goes on the game, it's really hard for a young player to come in and win a Super Bowl. Even as big as a game as the AFC Championship game was, or NFC Championship game was for Jalen Hurts, I mean, it's not the Super Bowl. It's a whole nother level. And with Patrick Mahomes already being there a few times, I have to give the edge to the Chiefs. I know the Eagles have a really good defense, and they got a great offense. And, maybe Jalen Hurts will pull this off for the Eagles, but I'm giving the edge to the Chiefs on this one.
I totally agree where you're coming from about the experience, but I don't know. I just feel like the Eagles, they've went this far, and I know they're not going to go down without a fight for sure. Hurts, he is more mobile than Mahomes is, honestly, but Hurts also has 2 great targets other than Mahomes really does. Mahomes has only Travis Kelce, really. Granted, he was showing off MVS a lot in that last game, but like I said, I'm going to have to just take the Eagles on this one just because the targets he has. Miles Sanders has shown that he can run the ball this year, so I'm giving the edge to the Eagles on this one.
The reason I'm going to go with the Eagles is because I think that the play schemes and the player skills and the way it kind of lines up on both sides of the ball with the teams, I think the Chiefs' main thing about their defense, we always see their line. Their defensive line, it's good. They get back there, they pressure quarterbacks. But the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a decent offensive line back there to help Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts has feet up underneath of him already, so he can take the ball and run with it whenever he gets put in those tough positions. And like Chris brought up as well, he's got those 2 long bombers down the field, Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. They're down there somewhere, and they always got that ability to get open. I think that as long as the Eagles' defense can kind of make some type of plays happen against the Kansas City offense to stop Kelce and the miraculous plays of Mahomes and what he makes happen, then they'll be able to take that.
Yeah. I think either way, I think this is going to be a very close Super Bowl. I don't think this is going to be a blowout Super Bowl. And it may come down to who has the ball last. I mean, it very well can come down to that. And if it comes down to the kickers, both teams have good kickers. So,
yeah, definitely.
So it's like, you can't favor one team with the kicker and over the other team because both kickers are really good.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
It very well could be one in the trenches, like you was talking about KC's defensive line and the Eagles' offensive line. I think the wild card for Kansas City, though, is going to be Pacheco. I think if they can get enough screen passes to him for him to get positive yardage a lot. I think that's going to be a big wild card for them.
Most definitely. I like Isaiah Pacheco, especially since in my other fantasy league I have him, and he's been doing so great throughout the playoffs. So it's definitely going to be one of my keepers in the other league. But when Justin was mentioning about the defensive line and offensive line, I really feel like with Jason Kelsey in there, he's definitely a great captain for that line.
Absolutely.
So he's definitely going to tell him, like, we're going to double this guy. This guy can take care of this guy. So I really feel like the offensive line and defensive line is going to equal out very well. But you still will have that edge rusher or the blitz coming because Kansas City likes to blitz.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's all about, the reads, honestly, from the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree. And I guarantee you, though, Andy Reid has something that he has not shown to anybody yet. Andy Reid is very good at that. And we've seen it in the playoffs. He's done it in every game so far in the playoffs. He's ran a play that nobody has ever seen before. So, what do you guys think about the neatness of the Kelsey brothers playing,
That's what I was going to
against
get
each
into.
other?
It's going to be great seeing both of them because they're both going to try their hardest to get bragging rights.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I actually seen around on the internet. There's like a petition going around for Donna Kelsey to be the one that flips the coin at
That
the
would
beginning
be
of the
cool.
game.
that would be
That
awesome
would
because
be
she has
very
that
cool,
double
yes.
jersey too, and that'd be nice.
I figured that's
Yeah.
what she's going to wear is the
Oh,
double
yeah.
jersey.
She
Thing
said
is-
she's team offense during the Super Bowl.
So it's all
Yeah.
offense for her. Okay,
So,
very cool.
It's
And also, I sent you a text message
Yeah.
about a couple of guys who played high school together that's playing against each other in the Super Bowl.
yeah, you can go ahead and announce it.
So I can't remember who it was now. Let's see. Because I had just happened to see it, and I thought, well, heck. I was like, Chris, let me send this to you so you guys can check
Right.
this out. And then look at the other side. And I hadn't heard nothing on like ESPN about it or nothing.
I got it right here. It's
Okay.
you was telling me about AJ Brown and Willie Gay Jr. They played high
Yes,
school together, and
that's
now
it.
they're playing in the Super Bowl as opposing teams.
Right.
So that should be good to see.
That's very cool.
But yeah, back to the whole Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey thing that you was talking about. Those Thanksgiving dinners are going to be great to see.
Yeah.
Some definitely going to be bragging about a ring, even though Travis Kelsey has one. But so
Yeah, because it's going to be different than like the Manning's Thanksgiving where they're like,
Yeah.
well, I've been to this Super Bowl and I've been to this
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
no, they went
Yeah.
to the same
They're
one.
like, I can beat you in this. Kind of like the
Right.
Harbaughs did, I guess, when the Niners played the Ravens in the
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
yeah,
So-
definitely. Well, guys, as we wrap this up, thank you guys for watching. As always, Richie, thank you for coming. And
Absolutely.
again, great season.
Thank
Hopefully to
you,
see
thank
you back there,
I
but
plan on
hopefully it's a
getting it
different
next
outcome.
year. No, I'm looking for that back to back.
Yeah. As we close this
Oh,
out, guys.
can I
go
get one thing
Yep,
in?
go ahead.
One thing, I want to wish my son Dakota a happy 13th birthday
Happy
today.
birthday, Dakota.
'Cause
Happy
he's gonna be
birthday.
watching. So, and what do you guys think, Colts new head coach? Who do you think they're going to go after?
Honestly, I hope they take Bengals offensive coordinator.
Bittersweet as that is, Callahan would do wonders for Indy, but I'd hate to see him leave the Bengals since I also just seen that the Cardinals, your other team, was looking at stealing our defensive coordinator. So
That would be a double whammy for you.
Yeah.
the only one we'd have left is Zach Taylor, and then he'd have to bring in 2 new guys for us.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, as we wrap this up, Justin, will you close us out?
Oh, what? No. No.
Balling with the boys.
Cut.
We're out.
You should know. It's the social medias.
Brain farting, dog. It ain't there. Yeah, since you
All right,
know it
guys,
so
as we
well.
close this out, make sure to always like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And your boys are out.